AITA for refusing to pay for the wedding after my fiancée defended her ex? I'm Robert, 43, and Amanda and I had been together for 8 years and engaged for 11 months when this happened. I used to be the guy who kept an extra phone charger in the kitchen drawer because Amanda always lost hers, and I thought that kind of ordinary loyalty meant we were building something solid. We had a shared calendar full of dinner reservations, family birthdays, and wedding deadlines, and for a long time, I mistook all that planning for commitment. From the outside, we looked settled. We knew which side of the bed belonged to whom. I knew she hated onions unless they were cooked almost sweet, and she knew I always checked the front door twice before going upstairs. On Sunday mornings, she made coffee while I wiped down the counters and tried to remember whether we needed detergent. We had 8 years of little routines that felt more convincing than any speech about love. That was probably why I ignored the first few signs. Shane had always existed somewhere in Amanda's past. He was the ex she dated before me, the one she described as intense, complicated, and ultimately wrong for her. Whenever his name came up, she made him sound like an old song she had outgrown. We were different people, she once told me. There's nothing there now. I believed her because I wanted to. More importantly, I believed in the version of us that I had invested in. About 5 months after we got engaged, I was moving plastic bins of seasonal decorations from a hall closet. Amanda had stacked some wedding samples in front of them, ribbon swatches, invitation envelopes, a booklet from the venue, and a small wooden box I had never seen before. The lid was loose. When I shifted it, a few photographs slid halfway out. One showed Amanda in her 20s, laughing with her head thrown back, while Shane had an arm around her waist. There were ticket stubs, an old hotel key card, and a folded handwritten note with his name at the bottom. I didn't read the note. I put everything back the way I found it. Amanda came around the corner carrying a basket of laundry and stopped when she saw the box in my hands. "What are you doing?" "Moving the decorations." Her eyes went straight to the photograph. "You opened that." "It opened when I moved it." She set the basket down harder than necessary. "People have pasts, Robert." "I know." "Then don't stand there looking wounded." I wasn't wounded yet. Mostly, I was confused by how quickly she had turned a simple moment into an accusation. "I didn't ask you to throw anything away," I said. "I'm wondering why it was tucked behind the wedding stuff." She gave a short laugh. "Because that's where it fit. A past is one thing. Hiding it inside our future is another." The second I said it, her expression changed. Not guilty. Annoyed. "Don't be childish." That phrase stayed with me, though I tried to let the moment go. Amanda moved the box to the back of another closet. We finished organizing the decorations. That night, she leaned against me on the couch as if nothing had happened. A few weeks later, her phone lit up after midnight while we were in bed. "Miss our talks." The message preview showed Shane's name. Amanda was brushing her teeth. Her phone was face up on the nightstand, close enough that I saw it without touching anything. When she came back, I said, "Shane texted." She picked up the phone immediately. "Okay. At 12:30? He's going through a difficult time." "What kind of difficult time?" She looked at me over the screen. "Why do you need to know?" "Because your ex is telling you he misses your talks in the middle of the night. He lost someone close to him." "I'm sorry to hear that. I'm asking why you're the person he's reaching out to." Amanda sighed, sat on the edge of the bed, and typed something before locking the screen. "Compassion shouldn't be threatening to you." I didn't say compassion was threatening. "You're making it ugly." I asked one question. "You made it a character flaw." She slept facing away from me. By the next afternoon, she had changed her phone password. I only knew because she asked me to use the kitchen timer instead of her phone while she was cooking, then hesitated and took the device from my hand. I didn't accuse her of anything. I told myself that privacy was normal. I had never been the kind of partner who demanded passwords or searched through messages. I didn't want to become that man because she had framed every concern I raised as a flaw in my character. After that, Shane began appearing in conversations more often. If Amanda wanted time alone and I asked whether something was wrong, she would say, "Shane used to understand that I needed space without making it about him." If I disagreed with her about a wedding expense, she would say, "Shane was impulsive, but at least he didn't turn every decision into an audit." If I asked her not to tell other people about a private argument, she would say, "Some people know how to listen without getting defensive." At first, she rarely used his name directly. She would say someone from my past, or people who knew me before all this. Then the comparisons became obvious enough that pretending otherwise felt ridiculous. One evening, we were eating takeout at the kitchen island while going over the guest list. Amanda wanted to add 6 people I barely knew. I said the room had a firm capacity, and we had already cut 2 of my cousins. She tapped her fork against the carton. You make everything feel transactional. The venue has a fire code. That isn't my personality. You know what I mean. No. Tell me. She looked down at the seating chart. Shane never made me explain every little thing. I stared at her. She raised both hands. I'm just being honest. Honesty doesn't require an audience of ghosts. Her mouth tightened. That's dramatic. What's dramatic is bringing your ex into a conversation about our wedding guest list. He's not in the conversation. You're putting him there. You just said his name. Amanda pushed away from the counter. This is exactly why I don't tell you things. You grab one sentence and turn it into a prosecution. Then she went upstairs and closed the bedroom door. The next morning, she acted warm and practical. She handed me a cup of coffee and asked whether I had confirmed the florist appointment. That was another pattern I had been slow to recognize. Amanda rarely apologized. She simply reset the room and expected me to follow. For years, I thought that was conflict resolution. Now I think it was control through exhaustion. If I wanted peace, I had to accept her version of what had happened. I finally set a clear boundary one Sunday afternoon. We were folding laundry in the living room, and Amanda mentioned that Shane had a good perspective on whether couples should combine finances before marriage. I put down the towel in my hands. I need you to stop involving him in our relationship. She did not look up. I'm not involving him. He knows about our finances. We talk generally. He knows we disagreed about combining accounts. So that is not general. Amanda folded one of my shirts, then folded it again, slower. You cannot tell me who I'm allowed to speak to. I'm not asking you to erase history. I'm asking you not to give it a chair at our table. That sounds controlling. I'm being specific. I'm not saying you can't know people from your past. I'm saying your ex should not be part of our wedding discussions, family events, financial decisions, or private arguments. You don't get to make rules for me. I get to decide what I will participate in. She looked at me then, and for a moment the polished language disappeared. You're threatened by him. I'm disrespected by this. That's insecurity with better vocabulary. She stood, left the laundry where it was, and walked out of the room. 2 weeks later, we attended a barbecue at Amanda's younger sister Bethany's house. It was a casual afternoon with paper plates, folding chairs, and a grill that smoked every time someone opened the lid. Amanda spent most of the time helping Bethany in the kitchen while I talked with Joel, a mutual friend who had known us for years. Bethany came outside carrying a bowl of potato salad. As she set it down, she glanced at me and said, "You know, Amanda shouldn't have to ask permission to have friends." Joel suddenly became very interested in the label on his beer bottle. I kept my voice even. "Is that what you were told this was?" Bethany's face changed slightly. She said you don't like her talking to people she used to know. I don't care about old classmates or former co-workers. She said Shane makes you uncomfortable. He does, because he knows private details about our relationship and she compares me to him when we disagree. Bethany set the spoon beside the bowl. She didn't say that. I figured. Amanda came through the back door before Bethany could respond. "What are we talking about?" she asked. Bethany looked from me to her. "Nothing." Amanda smiled, but her eyes stayed on my face. For the rest of the afternoon, she was unusually affectionate in public. She touched my shoulder when she passed, brought me another drink without asking, and told Joel a story about how dependable I was during a family emergency years earlier. On the drive home, she stared through the windshield. "You embarrassed me." I answered a question. "You made Bethany think I lied. Did you tell her I was trying to ban your friends?" "I told her you were struggling with trust." That isn't what she said. Amanda gripped the steering wheel. "You always focus on wording. Wording is where the truth usually changes." She went quiet after that. The dinner announcement came 3 weeks later. We were standing in the kitchen on a Thursday night. I was opening mail while Amanda scrolled through her phone. A calendar notification had just reminded us that the next venue installment was due the following Monday. Amanda said, very casually, "Shane is coming to dinner Saturday." I looked up. "What dinner?" "My family dinner." The one with Anna Lane and Bethany. The reservation we made last month? Yes. You added Shane? He's been going through a lot, and I thought it would be good for everyone to see that adults can share a table. Was I going to be asked? I'm telling you now. That isn't asking. Amanda set her phone on the counter. I knew you would react. I'm not reacting. I'm asking why your ex was added to a family dinner involving your fiancé without a conversation. Because every conversation becomes this. This what? A performance where I have to prove I'm not doing anything wrong. You invited the one person we have been arguing about into a room with your family after telling them I'm controlling. Her tone stayed soft. That was one of her strengths. If anyone had walked into the room, she would have sounded calm, and I would have sounded difficult simply because I was asking direct questions. You can either trust me like a future husband, she said, or act single. That's not a choice. That's a threat. No, it's clarity. I studied her face and understood that the dinner had already been decided. The seating, the guest count, the story she would tell if I refused to go, all of it. Then she said the sentence that changed how I saw the entire evening. If you make this awkward, that tells me everything I need to know about our future. I felt something in me go still. Understood, I said. I'll handle Saturday respectfully. She looked almost relieved. Good. The next evening, Amanda was standing beside me at the kitchen counter, reading a recipe on her phone while I rinsed vegetables. She placed the phone face up to reach for a bowl. A message appeared on the lock screen. So tomorrow decides if he can handle reality? It was from Shane. I did not touch the phone. I did not have to. The preview stayed on the screen long enough for both of us to see it. Amanda snatched it up. Why does Shane think tomorrow decides something? I asked. Her face flushed. You were reading my phone. It lit up in front of me. This is exactly what I mean. You have no respect for privacy. He used the word decides. Decides what? Whether you can act normally around someone from my past. So it is a test. No, it's dinner. He thinks it decides whether I can handle reality. Amanda put the phone in her pocket. Because you keep proving why I can't talk to you. She abandoned the recipe and ordered food instead. We ate in silence. Later that night, I opened our shared calendar to confirm the venue payment date. Amanda and I had used the calendar for years. It included household appointments, family birthdays, dinner plans, vendor calls, and reminders for bills we had agreed to split. The venue payment notification was there for Monday. Above it were several entries labeled Simply Coffee. One was on a Tuesday afternoon when Amanda had told me she was running errands. Another matched a day she said she had lunch with Bethany. There were 6 similar entries across 2 months. A vague calendar entry was not proof of anything. Neither was coffee with an old acquaintance. But I remembered several printed receipts stuffed in the kitchen junk drawer under takeout menus and appliance warranties. Amanda had a habit of dropping receipts there when she cleaned out her purse. I pulled them out and sorted them by date. 3 were from the same restaurant. 2 were from a cafe across town. The dates matched the calendar entries. One receipt showed 2 entrees and a shared dessert. Another had a handwritten note from the server. Great seeing you both again. I stood alone in the kitchen with the refrigerator humming behind me, feeling less angry than cold. 1 hidden coffee could have been nothing. 6 hidden coffees were a pattern. The next morning, I searched our shared email for the restaurant reservation because Amanda had originally used that account to book the family dinner. The confirmation showed 8 guests. A later update showed 9. Shane had been added 4 days before Amanda told me he was coming. That mattered more than I wanted it to. She had not made a spontaneous decision out of sympathy. She had planned the room, updated the reservation, and waited until the last moment to inform me. I was still staring at the confirmation when Amanda came downstairs. Coffee, she asked. No, thanks. She glanced at the laptop. What are you doing? Checking the venue deadline. Monday. I know. She opened the refrigerator and began moving things around, even though nothing needed to be moved. I closed the reservation email. When did you add Shane to dinner? She paused for half a second. Recently. The reservation was changed 4 days before you told me. So you had time to ask. I didn't need permission. That isn't what I said. Amanda shut the refrigerator. I'm not doing this before breakfast. She left the kitchen with her coffee. I should have stopped there. I had enough to know the dinner was deliberate. But an hour later, I logged into the venue account, and Amanda's laptop was still open on the kitchen table. We used the venue portal through a shared email because my account was connected to the payment method. I clicked the confirmation tab that was already open. A message preview appeared in the corner of the screen from Shane. Maybe he'll finally understand he was never the first choice. Under it, Amanda's reply was visible. Don't push too hard at dinner. I need him calm enough to see himself. I did not open the conversation. I did not scroll. I took a photograph of what was already on the screen because I knew the moment I asked about it, the message would disappear and the story would change. Then I closed the laptop. My hands were steady, which surprised me. For 8 years, I had believed Amanda and I were negotiating a shared life. In 2 sentences, I understood that she had turned me into a subject in her experiment. Shane believed he was helping her show me my place. Amanda believed she could use his presence to force me to accept a new arrangement. She would keep him close, share private details with him, compare me to him, and call any objection immaturity. I went outside and called Patrick. Patrick had been my closest friend since before Amanda and I met. He was blunt in a way that could be irritating when I just wanted comfort, which was exactly why I called him when I needed clear judgment. He listened without interrupting while I explained the dinner, the message preview, the receipts, and the venue payment. When I finished, he asked, "What do you want to do?" "I want to confront her." "Tonight?" "Yes." "And then what?" "I don't know." That's the problem. I paced along the edge of the driveway. "She's staging this," I said. "I know." "She invited him to make me prove something." "I know." "She's telling everyone I'm controlling." "I know, Robert." His voice sharpened. "So do not give her a scene she can quote later." I stopped walking. Patrick continued. "She wants you angry. Angry is useful to her. If you yell, she tells the family you scared her. If you get aggressive with Shane, he becomes the reasonable one. If you cancel the dinner, she says you isolated her. Don't win by getting louder. Win by being accurate." "So I don't react?" "No, you act. Big difference." I looked back through the kitchen window. Amanda was at the table, typing on her laptop as if the morning were normal. Patrick asked, "Whose account is the venue payment coming from?" "Mine." "Is it already transferred?" "It's pending for Monday. I can cancel until noon today. Then decide whether you are still consenting to pay it." That word, consenting, made the choice simple. I was not. After the call, I logged into the venue portal from my phone and canceled the pending ACH transfer. It was a large installment, one Amanda had expected me to cover because she had paid for several smaller vendor deposits. The venue's policy allowed cancellation before the deadline without a penalty beyond losing the hold on our preferred date. I did not touch Amanda's money. I did not cancel shared utilities, required rent, insurance, or anything she legally depended on. I stopped one future voluntary payment from my own account for a wedding I no longer believe should happen. The confirmation arrived less than a minute later. Payment canceled. Reservation hold expires Monday at 5 p.m. unless an alternate payment method is received. I saved the email. Then I sent Amanda a short message through email, not text. I am pausing future wedding payments from my account until we have an honest conversation about Shane and the way this dinner has been framed. I will continue paying my share of our existing household obligations. I will not authorize additional wedding expenses while our engagement is being treated as a test. I did not mention the receipts or the message preview. She was still upstairs when I sent it. A few minutes later, I heard her footsteps cross the hallway, then stop. My phone rang. I let it ring once before answering. "What did you do?" she asked. "I canceled the venue payment from my account." "You can't do that." "I just did. The deadline is Monday." "I know. Are you trying to punish me?" "No. I am declining to fund a wedding while you invite your ex to evaluate whether I deserve to be in it." Her breathing changed. "This is financial abuse." "No. I canceled a voluntary payment from my personal account before it was transferred. I am still paying my share of every current obligation. You're sabotaging our wedding." "I'm not sure there is a wedding to sabotage." Silence. Then her voice became very quiet. "You need to think carefully about what you're doing." "I have." "Are you still coming tonight?" "Yes." That answer unsettled her more than if I had refused. "Why?" "Because you asked me to handle it respectfully." She hung up. For the rest of the day, we stayed in separate rooms. Amanda sent several messages accusing me of being dramatic, controlling, and vindictive. I replied once, "We can discuss the engagement after dinner. I will not argue by text." I made a simple timeline for myself. Not a dramatic folder. Not a speech. Just 4 items saved in one place. The dinner reservation update, the visible message from Shane and Amanda's reply, the dates from the shared calendar matched to the receipts, and the venue cancellation confirmation. I did not plan to show any of it unless Amanda lied publicly. That evening, I dressed as I normally would for dinner with her family. Amanda watched from the bedroom doorway while I buttoned my shirt. "You're really going to pretend everything is normal?" she asked. "No." "Then what are you doing?" "Going to dinner." She folded her arms. "You'd better not humiliate me." I met her eyes in the mirror. "I'm not responsible for protecting a version of events you created." Her lips parted, but she did not respond. We drove separately. That was my choice. I wanted to be able to leave without turning the parking lot into another negotiation. The restaurant had put us in a private room with a long table, heavy curtains, and one narrow window facing the main dining area. It was not elegant enough to feel formal, but private enough that everyone could hear every word. Joel was already there. Bethany sat beside Amanda's Aunt Elaine, who was 68 and had the kind of quiet authority that made people lower their voices without being asked. 2 other relatives were talking near the end of the table. Shane stood when I entered. He was broader than I remembered from old photographs, with silver starting at his temples and the relaxed posture of a man who believed the room had been prepared for him. He held out his hand. "Good to finally share a table like adults." I shook it. "That's the plan." His smile tightened for a fraction of a second. Amanda watched me take my seat. She looked relieved, almost pleased. In her mind, my arrival meant I had accepted the terms. Shane sat on her other side. That detail was not accidental. At first, the dinner was ordinary. People discussed traffic, a relative's upcoming surgery, and whether the restaurant had changed its menu. I answered questions politely. I asked Elaine how she was feeling after a recent knee procedure. I spoke to Joel about a home repair he had been putting off. Amanda kept glancing at me, waiting. Shane made the first move. Amanda ordered coffee after the main course. She asked for cream and 1 packet of sugar. Shane laughed. "That's the public order." Amanda looked at him. "What? Come on. You still take it the old way when you're honest with yourself." A few people smiled politely without understanding. Bethany did not. "What's the old way?" she asked. 2 sugars and cinnamon," Shane said. She pretends she outgrew it. Amanda laughed too loudly. "That was years ago." Shane leaned back. "Not that many." Bethany looked at her sister. "How recent is that joke?" Amanda's smile faded at the edges. "We've had coffee a few times. Robert knows that." I said nothing. Amanda glanced at me. Shane reached for his water. "It's harmless. We have history, man. That doesn't have to threaten you." I didn't say I was threatened. "You've been pretty quiet." "I'm listening." He smiled again, but less confidently. As the plates were cleared, Shane mentioned a song Amanda used to play in the car. Amanda corrected him about the singer, and they fell into a brief argument that had the rhythm of familiarity. Not old familiarity. Current familiarity. The kind built by recent conversations. Joel watched them, then looked at me. Amanda noticed the shift in the room and decided to take control. She lifted her wine glass. "I actually want to say something." Conversation stopped. Her voice was warm, controlled, almost affectionate. "I know tonight was uncomfortable for Robert. I also think relationships require trust, growth, and the ability to accept that people had meaningful lives before us." She turned slightly toward me. "Shane understood me during an important part of my life. If Robert can't welcome the man who understood me first, maybe he isn't mature enough to marry me." The room went completely still. There it was. The purpose of the dinner, stated softly enough to sound thoughtful. I nodded. "You're right," I said. "Tonight, I'll be very mature." Amanda smiled. She thought I had surrendered. Joel shifted in his chair. "Robert, is there something we're missing here?" I set down my glass. "Yes," I said, "but only enough for everyone to understand why I'm leaving." Amanda's smile disappeared. I looked at her, not Shane. "You asked me to prove I could trust you in front of your family. You invited your ex, told him the dinner would decide whether I could handle reality, and gave him private information about our relationship. So I made a decision before I came. What decision? Bethany asked. I canceled the pending wedding venue payment from my account. Amanda's chair scraped against the floor. You what? I canceled it before the deadline. I will not continue toward marriage while I'm being asked to compete with Shane for a position I already committed to. You're humiliating me, she said. You staged the audience. I just stopped playing the role you wrote for me. Her face went red. This is unbelievable. You came here planning to punish me. No. I came here prepared to leave if you did exactly what your messages said you intended to do. Amanda froze. Shane looked at her. What messages? She ignored him. There are no messages, she said. He's twisting everything because he's jealous. I took out my phone. I'm going to show 3 things. Nothing more. Robert, don't, she said. That was the first honest fear I had heard in her voice all evening. I showed Joel and Bethany the photograph of the visible message preview. Shane's words were clear. Maybe he'll finally understand he was never the first choice. Under it was Amanda's reply. Don't push too hard at dinner. I need him calm enough to see himself. Bethany read it twice. What does see himself mean? She asked. Amanda shook her head. It was taken out of context. What context makes that better? Joel asked. Amanda looked at me. You went through my laptop. The message appeared on the screen while I was using the venue account tied to my payment information. I did not open the conversation. You photographed it. Yes, because you have changed the story every time I asked a question. She looked around the table, searching for someone to support her. I opened the calendar dates and placed the matching receipt photographs beside them. These are shared calendar entries labeled coffee. The receipts were in our kitchen drawer. 6 meetings over 2 months. Amanda told me Shane was barely involved in her life. Shane's expression changed. He was no longer smiling. I opened the cancellation confirmation last. This is the venue payment. It was scheduled from my personal account. It has been canceled. I have not touched Amanda's money or any shared obligation. Amanda stood. You planned an ambush. No, I planned protection against one. You could have handled this privately. I tried. You called every boundary insecurity, told your family I was controlling, and invited him here to judge whether I was worthy of marrying you. Her eyes filled with tears, but her voice stayed sharp. This is exactly why I was afraid to be honest with you. Elaine spoke for the first time. A test is not trust. Amanda turned toward her. Elaine, you don't understand. Elaine placed her napkin beside her plate. I understand enough. No one moved. Then Elaine looked directly at Amanda and said, A woman does not invite one man to judge whether another man is worthy of her. The sentence landed harder than anything I had said. Amanda sat back down. Shane cleared his throat. Look, I'm not trying to be in the middle. Bethany turned to him. You came to a family dinner after texting that Robert was never the first choice. I was told they were practically done. Amanda snapped. Shane, stop. He stared at her. You said he already knew where things stood. The room seemed to contract. Amanda's voice dropped. That is not what I said. Yes, it is. Shane's confidence was gone now. You said the engagement was hanging by a thread. You said tonight was about making him accept the situation. What situation? Joel asked. Shane looked toward the door, as if considering whether he could leave without answering. Amanda reached for his arm. Don't. He pulled away. I thought you were choosing, he said. Her face hardened. I never said that. You said he was on thin ice. I said we were having problems. You said once he saw we still had a connection, he would either grow up or leave. Bethany stared at her sister. You told me Robert was trying to ban you from having friends. Amanda pressed both hands to her forehead. Everyone is twisting my words. I looked at Shane. No, I said. Let him finish. It's the first honest sentence he has said all night. Shane's jaw tightened, but he did not argue. For a strange second, I almost felt sorry for him. He had walked into the room believing he was the desired alternative. Instead, he was discovering that Amanda had used him as leverage without promising him anything real. She wanted me for stability and Shane for validation. She wanted a wedding funded, a family impressed, a reliable future secured, and an old flame close enough to make her feel pursued. Each man had been given a different story because the full truth would have cost her both. Amanda looked at me. You're throwing away 8 years over dinner. No, I'm responding to what the dinner revealed. You think a canceled payment makes you powerful? No. It makes me unavailable for the plan attached to it. You're going to regret this. I already regret how long I tried to rationalize the disrespect. Her eyes narrowed. So that's it. You walk out and leave me to deal with this. I took enough cash from my wallet to cover my meal and tip, then placed it beside Joel. This should cover me. Add it to the bill. Joel nodded. Amanda laughed bitterly. Of course. Everything neatly calculated. I'm not leaving someone else to pay for me. I stood, thanked Elaine for dinner even though she had not hosted, and said good night to Bethany and Joel. Amanda followed me into the hallway outside the private room. You don't get to abandon me in there, she said. I stopped near the restaurant entrance. I didn't abandon you. I stopped standing in the spot where you put me. Come back inside and fix this. What exactly do you want me to fix? You made everyone think I cheated. I said you lied and used him to pressure me. Shane supplied the rest. I never slept with him. I didn't accuse you of that. Then why are you ending our engagement? Because betrayal doesn't begin in a hotel room. You gave another man access to our private life, used him to compare and diminish me, told him I was on thin ice, and brought him to dinner so I could be graded in front of your family. Her expression shifted from anger to disbelief. You're really choosing your pride over us. No, I'm choosing a relationship where I don't have to audition for my own place. Robert, please. It was the first time she sounded less concerned about the room and more concerned about me leaving it. For 8 years, that word might have stopped me. That night, it did not. I'm going home, I said. We will discuss practical matters in writing. I walked out. My hands shook once I reached the car. I sat behind the wheel without starting the engine and stared at the restaurant's front doors. Leaving did not feel triumphant. It felt like realizing a house I had lived in for years had termites in every wall. The structure still looked familiar, but I could no longer pretend it was safe because I loved the furniture. My phone began ringing before I left the parking lot. Amanda called 4 times. Then she sent messages. How could you do this to me? You made me look like a monster. You planned the whole thing. You embarrassed my family. You are proving everything I said about you. I did not answer. A voicemail came through while I was driving. Her voice was tearful but controlled. I hope you're happy. Elaine won't even look at me. Bethany is asking questions like I'm some liar. Shane left. You destroyed our wedding over your insecurity, and someday you're going to understand what you threw away. Even in the voicemail, the harm that mattered most to her was the collapse of her image. When I got home, I packed a suitcase quietly. I did not throw clothes into bags or pull photographs off the walls. I folded enough for several days, placed my documents in the side compartment, and locked the case. Patrick had offered me his spare room. I planned to stay there until Amanda and I agreed on how to separate our belongings and remaining expenses. Before I left, I sent Amanda one message. I didn't leave because he was there. I left because you wanted me to prove I deserved to stay. From now on, communicate with me in writing about the apartment, bills, belongings, and wedding cancellations. She called immediately. I turned off the ringer. 10 minutes later, Bethany texted. Can I ask you something without starting another fight? I replied yes. Did Amanda meet Shane more than she admitted? She told me they had only exchanged a few messages. I sent back. The shared calendar and receipts showed at least 6 in-person meetings over 2 months. I do not know whether there were more. 3 dots appeared, disappeared, then returned. She told me you were banning all her old friends. She never said he knew about your finances or the wedding problems. I wrote, I never asked her to cut off every old friend. I asked her not to involve one specific ex in our private relationship or use him as a comparison. Bethany replied, that is not the version I heard. I did not ask her to take my side. I did not send more evidence. I only said, I understand. Joel called next. That was rough, he said. Yes. For what it's worth, you were calmer than I would have been. I'm not sure calm was kindness. It wasn't kindness, he said. It was control. Different thing. He told me Shane had left soon after I did. Amanda had tried to explain that the messages were jokes, but Elaine asked why a joke required Robert to be calm enough to see himself. Bethany asked why Amanda had hidden 6 meetings. Amanda eventually accused everyone of ganging up on her and left. Patrick was waiting when I arrived at his place. He opened the door, looked at the suitcase, and said, You did it? I did. Did you yell? No. Threaten anybody? No. Touch shared money? No. He stepped aside. Then come in. The next morning, the venue emailed both of us because Amanda was listed as a contact. The reservation would expire by 5 o'clock unless a new payment method was provided. Amanda forwarded the message to me with one line. Fix this before the date is gone. I replied, I will not reinstate the payment. I am ending the engagement. I will honor my share of existing legal or jointly agreed obligations. I will not finance future wedding plans. Her answer came quickly. You don't get to make that decision alone. I stared at the sentence for a long time. Then I wrote, marriage requires two people to agree. Ending an engagement requires one person to withdraw consent. She did not reply for several hours. That afternoon, I created a written breakdown of everything we still shared. There was the apartment lease, utilities, one furniture payment, a storage unit, 2 refundable vendor deposits, 1 non-refundable photographer deposit, and several small wedding purchases already made. I separated them into 3 categories: existing household obligations, recoverable wedding expenses, and future voluntary expenses. I agreed to pay my share of rent through the notice period required by the lease. I agreed to cover half the utilities until my belongings were removed. I offered to absorb half the lost photographer deposit because we had signed that contract together. I did not agree to pay for the venue, catering, flowers, transportation, or any other service that had not yet been charged. At the bottom, I wrote, I'll handle what I actually owe. I won't finance a future I'm no longer part of. Amanda called the document cold and punitive. It was neither. It was the first conversation we had had in months that could not be reshaped by tone. Over the next week, she tried several approaches. First, she was furious. She accused me of using money to control her. I repeated that I had canceled only a payment from my own account for a wedding I no longer consented to. I sent copies of the statements showing that all shared bills remained paid. Then she became sentimental. She emailed photographs from trips, birthdays, and ordinary weekends. One showed us repainting the living room in old clothes, both of us laughing because she had stepped in the paint tray. Another showed the dinner where I proposed. 8 years, she wrote. Does none of this matter? It mattered so much that I had tolerated what I should not have tolerated. I replied, it matters. That is why this hurts. It does not make the current situation acceptable. Then she became practical. She suggested counseling, but only if I reinstated the venue payment first so we would not lose momentum. She said canceling the date before counseling showed I was not committed to repair. I answered that counseling could not be made conditional on financing a wedding. I would consider one closure session to discuss the separation, but I was not restoring the engagement. She rejected that. Then she tried public pressure. She posted a vague message online about discovering that some people confuse financial control with boundaries. She did not name me, but enough mutual friends understood the reference. I did not respond publicly. Joel called and asked whether I wanted him to correct the story. No, I said. Anyone who asks me directly will get the truth. I'm not turning this into a campaign. That restraint became easier once I realized Amanda's version was collapsing without my help. Bethany asked her why Shane knew about our account discussions. Amanda said she had only spoken in broad terms. Shane admitted she had told him I was hesitant to combine finances because I needed control. Elaine asked why Amanda had added Shane to the reservation 4 days before telling me. Amanda said she was afraid I would overreact. Elaine replied that planning around someone's reaction was not the same as acting honestly. Joel pointed out that I had paid for my own meal, remained calm, and showed only evidence Amanda denied existed. The more Amanda insisted that everyone had misunderstood her, the more obvious it became that she had told each person something different. Shane did not become her new partner. That surprised some people, though it did not surprise me. He had enjoyed believing he was the man she never got over. He had liked the private jokes, the emotional access, and the idea that I was failing some contest he had already won. But once the dinner exposed him as part of Amanda's strategy, he stopped sounding confident. According to Joel, Shane told a mutual acquaintance that Amanda had misrepresented the situation. Amanda told Bethany that Shane had taken advantage of her vulnerability. Neither version made either of them look better. A week after the dinner, Shane sent me a message. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. For what it's worth, I didn't know she was still planning to go through with the wedding like normal. I replied, "You knew she invited you to test me." He answered, "I thought you already knew they were having serious doubts." He wrote about my engagement as though he and Amanda were one side of a negotiation. I typed several angry responses and deleted them. Finally, I sent, "You knew enough to participate. I'm not interested in debating how much." He did not reply. Amanda and I arranged a time for me to collect the rest of my belongings. Bethany agreed to be present so neither of us could later claim the exchange had become threatening. When I arrived, Amanda had placed our framed engagement photograph on the dining table. She stood beside it with her arms crossed. "Do you feel anything when you look at that?" she asked. "Yes." "What?" "Grief." Her face softened. Then I added, "Not doubt." She looked away. I packed books, clothes, tools, and a few kitchen items that had belonged to me before we moved in together. I took the extra phone charger from the kitchen drawer, then put it back. It felt too symbolic, and I was tired of symbols. Bethany helped me carry a box to the door. Amanda followed us. "You're really going to let one bad night erase everything?" she asked. I set the box down. "The dinner didn't erase anything. It exposed what you had been asking me to ignore. I made a mistake. You made a plan. I was trying to show you that Shane wasn't a threat. You let him believe I was never your first choice. I didn't say that. But you let him believe it. That's different." "It isn't different enough." She started crying. "I didn't know how to get through to you. You could have told the truth. You would have left." "Yes." She stared at me as though I had confirmed something cruel. "That's why I couldn't tell you." "No, Amanda. That's why you should have." Bethany stood several feet away, silent. Amanda wiped her face. "So you're just done?" "I'm done with the engagement. I'm done being compared to him. I'm done defending boundaries that shouldn't require a jury." She looked at Bethany. "Are you enjoying this?" Bethany's expression hardened. "No. I'm realizing you told me he was banning your friends. You did not tell me you invited your ex to judge him." "I never said judge. You called it a test." "I said I wanted to see whether he could handle dinner." Bethany shook her head. "That is a test." Amanda turned away from both of us. I carried the last box to my car. The apartment key was returned 2 days later through Joel. I placed it in a sealed envelope with a signed note confirming the date. It was not necessary legally, but by then I wanted every practical step to be boring and documented. The lease termination cost us both money. The photographer kept part of the deposit. The venue date disappeared from the calendar. A stack of unused invitation samples remained in a box Amanda did not want and I did not take. There was no dramatic destruction. No one lost a house. No one was fired. Amanda's family did not cut her off forever. Real consequences were quieter. She lost credibility. Bethany stopped automatically defending her. Elaine refused to repeat Amanda's claim that I had financially abused her. Joel remained friendly with both of us, but made it clear he would not pretend the dinner had been innocent. Shane stopped appearing as the superior alternative once everyone understood he had been told a different story. Most importantly, Amanda lost the certainty that she could define an event before anyone else spoke. A month later, she sent one final long email. She admitted that she had enjoyed being understood by Shane without having to deal with the responsibilities of a relationship with him. She admitted that she had relied on me for stability, planning, and follow-through. She said she had not intended to replace me, but had wanted me to fight for us. That phrase nearly made me laugh. I wrote back, "You did not ask me to fight for us. You asked me to compete with him while you judged the result. Those are not the same thing." She responded that I had become emotionally rigid. I did not answer. There were days I missed her so badly that I reached for my phone before remembering there was nothing left to say. I missed the Sunday coffee, the shared grocery list, the way she sang the wrong lyrics while cleaning. I missed the life I thought we were building. But missing a person is not proof that staying with them is wise. Some mutual friends thought canceling the payment before dinner was too calculated. One said I should have confronted Amanda privately and given her a chance to explain. I understand why they saw it that way. What they did not understand was that I had already spoken privately. I had asked why Shane was texting late at night. I had asked her not to include him in our private problems. I had asked why her family believed I was banning her friends. Each time, She turned the concern into evidence that something was wrong with me. The dinner was public because Amanda needed witnesses. She believed an audience would pressure me into accepting what I had rejected in private. I did not expose her because I enjoyed humiliating her. I protected myself because she had already written the story in which I was jealous, controlling, and unstable. The evidence was the only reason the room saw the difference between a man losing his temper and a man withdrawing consent. I still think about Elaine's sentence sometimes. A woman does not invite one man to judge whether another man is worthy of her. That was exactly what happened. Amanda had built a panel, assigned Shane the role of expert, cast herself as the prize, and expected me to perform gratitude for the opportunity. I canceled the payment because a grown man does not compete for a seat at his own table. I did not lose to another man. I stopped competing for a woman who had already turned commitment into a performance review. If you like the stories, don't forget to leave a comment and support the channel by subscribing. See you in the upcoming stories.